So we see that all these nations who desire to be part of the permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council all in some way also support one another. And therefore, because they support one another, they were considered by the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council not to be allowed to be part of the permanent membership, and therefore not having any veto rights. But we will also see now that all these nations who have actually in a way worked together, it was prophesied by the prophet Daniel that all of them will finally, because of a common enemy, a common denominator, will fight together in a war in the last days. In order to understand the prophet Daniel's prophecy now, we'll now want to look again at the same scripture we looked at earlier in Daniel 9:27, which says, "And he shall enter into a strong and a firm covenant with many for 1 week or 7 years." We have now seen that President Obama is called the Alexander the Great of our time. And not only that, that he is the one that was chosen to consolidate the whole world and even the United States of America under one banner. As we have seen with a flag that looks very similar as the European Union's flag. But it says here that he, we have seen, is not the Antichrist, but that he is the longhorn who make a strong and a firm covenant with many. We have now seen what this covenant actually is. The covenant that was made and all the agreement that was made was about nuclear proliferation, which is to stop the manufacture of nuclear weapons and to reduce them for the next 7 years. And President Obama actually did get together with 47 nations of the world in order to make a strong agreement between these nations to reduce their nuclear weapons in the next 4 years. Now the prophecy continues and saying that in the midst of the week, which is 3.5 years later, he shall cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease. He shall cause the burnt offerings to stop. And we will see later how this prophecy actually have started going into fulfillment. And how the burnt offering or the fire offerings have been ceased, and what the prophet Zechariah actually prophesied about that. Then it says, "Upon the wing or the pinnacle of abominations shall come one who makes desolate." We now see for the first time what Yeshua in his mercy had revealed to us, that he who makes a strong and a firm covenant, and upon the wing or the pinnacle of abominations, that is when sin reaches its fullness, shall come another one who will make desolate, until the full determined end is poured out on the desolator. When we now look again at Nebuchadnezzar's statue, which he had seen, we will see how the statue prophesied about the kingdoms of the world that would succeed one another, following from the Babylonian kingdom all the way down to our time. But we will also see how, according to Daniel's prophecy, it was said to Daniel in the next vision that he saw a lion that had wings like an eagle. And this lion stood up on its legs, and then its wings were torn off, and it was given the heart of a man. We will now see how, as we have already seen, that America, the United States of America, has been the lead contributor to the United Nations and has been the one that has been the biggest initiator of all the wars for the sake of peace. But the prophecy of Daniel actually gives us another understanding. And God actually revealed to Daniel how, as he continued to look, how this lion stood up on its legs and like a man, and a heart was given to it, and its 2 wings was torn off. Who does this lion with 2 wings actually refer to? If we look at where the United States of America actually come from, we will see that it was planted out of the country of Britain. Each of these nations have their symbols or their symbolism, and we'll see that Britain has always been considered as the lion is the insignia for Britain. And then we don't have to go very far to understand what the insignia of the United States of America has been. It has been the wings, it's been an eagle. Now we see how Britain and the United States of America has always worked together. They have attacked Afghanistan together. They have fought together in the Gulf War. They have been the biggest initiators and the leaders in the United Nations. Thus, the head of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, has been the greatest kingdom of all the other kingdoms. And so the United States of America, with Britain as a conglomerate, is the Babylon of our time. If we look at the next empire, we will see how the empire of 2 arms of silver we have seen as the goat with 2 horns, standing in the east, which was broken by the ram with 2 horns that was broken by the goat with 1 horn, which also referred to the power of the United Nations being led by the United States of America's pride and arrogance. We also saw that Yeshua had revealed to us how Venezuela has been the originator of the OPEC countries and how the Arab League of Nations later joined them, thus forming the short horn and the long horn that came up last. Thus the 2 arms are representative of the Medo-Persian Empire and also the Arab League of Nations or the OPEC Alliance of Nations. In Daniel chapter 11, the angel revealed to Daniel how history would fulfill and how the greatest king of them all, being the long horn that we have spoken about, will come into his position. Then it says, and also I, that is the angel, in the 1st year of Darius the Mede, even I stood up to confirm and to strengthen him. And I will now show you the truth. Behold, there shall arise 3 more kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And when he becomes strong through his riches, he shall stir up and stake all against the realm of Greece. Then a mighty, warlike, threatening king shall arise, who shall rule against with great dominion, and do according to his own will. And as soon as he has fully arisen, his, that is Alexander the Great's kingdom, shall be broken by his death, and divided towards the 4 winds, the east, the west, the north, the south of the heavens. But not to his posterity, nor according to the Grecian dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be torn out and uprooted, and go to others, that is to his 4 generals, to the exclusion of these. We see that Alexander the Great's kingdom actually was broken up into 4, as we have seen. And we will now see how significant and important this is, as we have already seen how Yahweh had explained to Daniel in Daniel chapter 8, how the long horn will be broken off and how 4 horns will come up in its place. We will now take a look at what Yeshua revealed to his apostle John in the book of the Revelation of Yeshua. In order for us to understand the prophecy that was revealed to Daniel, we also need to look at the book of Revelation and what Yeshua had revealed to his servant and apostle John. In Revelation 17 verse 7, it says, "But the angel said to me, Why do you wonder? I will explain to you the secret symbolic meaning of the mystery of the woman, as well as of the beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns, that carries her." We have seen that this woman that sits on the beast has been the religious kingdom of the Roman Catholic Church that started from Constantine, who being a different horn that came up among the 10 horns. Then it says that he has 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. We have seen that since the time of Constantine, there had been 10 Roman Caesars that ruled during the Roman Empire, but it was revealed to John that 10 other kings would come after him, as we have already seen. We have seen how from the time when the Western Roman Empire was broken, 3 kings were removed, and then 7 other kings followed, fulfilling the prophecy. But we have also seen that Yeshua said to him that this prophecy is far deeper than just meets the eye. He says it takes for a very specific way of thinking. So the prophecy actually has different levels to it. And the reason the author understands this is because of that which Yeshua had shown him, as we have seen in former seminars on the CDs. How he had taken him up into heaven and had shown him how he had spoken to the prophets, and how God's word is not spoken only for a specific time, but is spoken in the Spirit across time. Each time fulfilling the prophecy at a certain niche in time. Now we see that he says, "But the beast that you saw once was, now is no more. He is going to come up out of the abyss, the bottomless pit, and proceed to go to perdition." So it was revealed to John that this beast that he's now seeing coming up out of the sea, which looked like a leopard, once was, but now is no more. He has iron claws, and he has brass claws, and he has iron teeth. So we see that he has characteristics of the Roman Empire, being the legs of iron. He has also got bronze nails. These actually showing us that the Greek Empire was the empire of bronze, according to that which was revealed to Nebuchadnezzar. So he says, this beast once was, now is no more. So we're finding a point of reference according to the time when John either received the prophecy or wrote the book. So as soon as John received this prophecy, that was the time when the Roman Empire actually ruled. We also know that there was 5 Caesars that had fallen. And the time when John received the prophecy, there was another Caesar that would be, and there would be another one that was yet to come after him. But this beast which we are looking at, which is very important to understand, because we know that the 8th beast is not only a system. Many people have said that the beast is a system, but we see that, or a kingdom, and it is true. But we will see in the next part that this beast, and as we have seen already, this beast is a king, which is a person. So he's a king that will rule a certain kingdom, and he is also the beast, having a system of rulership underneath him, which is his kingdom, which will be the final kingdom on the earth. It says he has 7 heads and 10 horns. He once was, now is no more. So it's not the Roman Empire, but it's an empire that was before the Roman Empire. that once existed before the Roman Empire. We know that the beast that came up out of the sea is a leopard. And Yeshua revealed to John that this beast has the resemblance of a leopard, which is the Greek Empire. So 5 kingdoms have fallen, and we will see it now in a moment. But he says he's going to come up out of the abyss, and then he will proceed to perdition. So we must see, and we will see in the next part of the seminar, when will the beast come forth? We see that he will come forth when the bottomless pit is opened. He will come up out of the abyss, out of the bottomless pit. And the other thing we see is that this beast is not at the moment, it's not the Roman Empire, but it is the revived Greek Empire that will come up out of the abyss. Yeshua is revealing to John that this beast is actually a conglomerate beast, or a beast that actually consists out of parts of the former kingdoms that once was. But mainly it will consist out of the Greek Empire having the shape of a leopard. But it's interesting that it has 7 heads, and we have seen already that the 7 heads are actually speaking about kingdoms that existed before the time, or during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, and until right at the end when Yeshua will rule and reign on the earth as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In Revelation 17:10 it says, "They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One still exists and is reigning. The other, the 7th, has not yet appeared." So during the time that John received the revelation, 5 of these kings had fallen. 5 of these kingdoms had come to an end. We know that Egypt was the first kingdom that ruled over Israel. And then there was another kingdom, was the kingdom of Assyria. Then the kingdom of Babylon came during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Then we had the 4th kingdom, the Medes and the Persians. Then we had the 5th kingdom, the Greeks, or the Greek Empire. And then during the time that John wrote the book, the Roman Empire existed. It says, but the 7th has not yet appeared. So there would be a 7th kingdom, as we have seen already, which was different from all the other kingdoms. And we have seen that it was the revived Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire that changed shape and became the Holy Roman Empire, which is the 7th empire that was yet to appear. It says, and when he does arrive, he must stay for a brief time. We have seen that over a period of 2,000 years, up until today, we have seen the revived Roman Empire, or the Holy Roman Empire, ruling and reigning on the earth, working together as the kings of the earth have been controlled by the Roman Catholic Church, or the Pope having to put him into his position first. This is very important to understand, because it was revealed to John that the 8th beast now was not, but he once was. So we can see again from history that the Greek Empire was the empire that once was, before the Roman Empire. So we see that the 8th beast, which is the Antichrist, he will come from the Greek Empire. Something else that's also very important to remember in the prophecy of Daniel, because Daniel and John actually strengthen one another and explain one another. We will see in Daniel 7:7, it says, "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, which is terrible, powerful, and dreadful, and exceedingly strong. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled what was left with its feet. And it was different from all the beasts that came up before it, and yet it had 10 horns, symbolizing 10 kings. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. It is important, as we have seen earlier, that this beast is not only a system, but it is a man. And we see that the little horn came up among the 10 horns. There was a different beast, which was the Holy Roman Empire, that arose, and a little horn came up. We know that Constantine had fulfilled the prophecy of the little horn, because he was different in the fact that he combined both political and religious strength with one another, thus creating a state church, making religion a law, and had to be accepted by all the peasants in his country, trying to unite both paganism and Christianity in one. And this is what is called the great falling away of the church of Yeshua. But then it says, this little horn before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up. We have seen that the Vandals, the Heruli and the Ostrogoths were removed. They were the first 3 horns that was removed first. So we will see in the next part of the seminar how important this is to understand that the first 3 horns were removed, just as the 3 heads of Alexander the Great's kingdom had been removed, so the 3 horns of the Heruli, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals had to be removed first. But this was a prophecy that now in history fulfilled, and give us a shadow picture of how the prophecy will now be fulfilled. And looking for one last time, it says, as for the beast that once was, now is no more. He himself is an 8th beast, or a king, or a head. And he's of the 7, he belongs to them, and he's going to go to perdition. So it's important to understand that the 11th horn is the 8th king, who will be the Antichrist, which is the little horn that came up among the 10 horns that Daniel saw. The question is, who is this 8th ruler, or 8th beast, or king? Looking at a diagram, which you can see in front of you, we explained it so that you can understand the fullness of the picture of all that was actually told to John, and the mystery of revealing the 8th ruler, or the beast. We see that the first head, the second head, the third head, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th beast, which was different from the others, but yet would come for a short time, would form the 7th head. But then it was revealed to John that it also had 10 horns. The first head having 1 horn, the second head having 1 horn, the third head having 1 horn, the 4th head having 1 horn, but the 5th head had 4 horns. Then we see that on the 5th head 3 of the first horns were removed. And when the first horns were removed, 1 of those horns would remain. Then the 6th head had 1 horn, and then the horn that was left on the 5th head, he says, he now is not, but he once was. That is the last horn which removed 3 horns that now will come up out of the bottomless pit. He himself is the 8th ruler. He is the 10th horn. He is the final fulfillment, and this is the Antichrist. We have seen that the kingdom that once was the Greek Empire, which ruled before the Roman Empire. And now we see that identify where this 10th king, which will fulfill the final prophecy, which we call the man of sin, or the son of perdition, or the Antichrist, where he will come from. And we see that he will come from the ancient Greek Empire. We also see that this beast that John saw had bronze nails which identify the leopard beast as the beast of the Greek Empire. So in order to understand how prophecy will fulfill now, we first had to understand how prophecy was fulfilled in history. So we see that out of these 10 kings having 7 heads, 3 of those horns will have to be removed first so that the Antichrist could rise to his position. It was revealed to John that the last kingdom would have a final king that would rule over 10 other kings or horns. So not only was the prophecy over 2,000 years, but the prophecy goes and says in verse 12, also the 10 horns that you observe are 10 rulers or kings who have as yet received no royal dominion, but together they are to receive power and authority as rulers for a single hour along with the beast. It's also very important that this prophecy has not yet been fulfilled, because the 10 kings would rule alongside with the beast ruling over them. So we see that these 10 kings have not yet received their kingdom. So although the prophecy has partially been fulfilled throughout history, it has not yet fully been fulfilled, because these 10 kings have to have their kingdom at the same time that the beast is ruling and the single hour that he's ruling. The question is, who is this beast and where does he come from? Many have reasoned that he might come from the United Nations, but we have seen that he comes not from the world, but he comes from the revived Greek Empire. Now, if we look at the location of where Greece is today, we will see that it sits where we today have the European Union. So we are now starting to zoom in on where the Antichrist will come from, and we find out that he will come from the European Union, where he will rule for a single hour, that is 3.5 years, with the 10 kings. The European Union is an economic and a political union of 27 member states, located primarily in Europe. It was established by the Treaty of Maastricht in 1st of November 1993, upon the foundation of the pre-existing European Economic Community. With almost 500 million citizens, the European Union combined generates an estimate of 30% share, which is about 16.8 trillion US dollars in 2007, of the nominal gross of the world product. The EU has developed a single market through a standardized system of laws which apply in all member states, guaranteeing the freedom of movement of people, goods, services and capital. It maintains a common trade policy, agricultural and fishery policies, and a regional development policy. 16 member states have adopted a common currency, that is the euro. It has developed a role in foreign policy, representing its members in the World Trade Organizations, at the G8 summits, at the United Nations. 21 of the EU countries are members of NATO, and EU has developed a role in justice and home affairs, including the abolishing of passport control between many member states under the Schengen Agreement, which also incorporates non-EU member states. So we see that the European Union actually was formed because of a pre-existing community called the European Economic Community. It is very important to understand where the European Economic Community actually had its existence and how it caused all these nations within a very short time to be able to be combined under one banner called the European Union. We also see that 16 of these member states have the same currency. And this is also important looking at the prophecy that was given to John in Revelation 13, where it was said that they would all be given a mark, so that they would not be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark. Then the other very important thing that is recorded in this encyclopedia information is that 21 of the EU countries are also members of NATO. And we will look in a short while who is NATO. So we see that the European Union will form the breeding ground and place for the Antichrist to come forth from. But the question is, how did the European Union form? Because this is another shadow picture that shows us how the final 10 kings will come to their position. The European Union operates through a hybrid system of intergovernmentalism and supranationalism. What does that mean? It means that they operate together as a system under a large banner, all interlinked with one another. It says in certain areas it depends upon agreement between the member states. However, it is also a supranational body able to make decisions without unanimity between all national governments. It means that some governments can override other governments. Important institutions and bodies of the EU include the European Commission, the European Parliament, the Council of the European Union, the European Council, and the European Court of Justice, and the European Central Bank. The EU citizens elect the Parliament every 5 years. So we see that this body called the European Union has its own Parliament, it has its own council, it has its own central banking system, and it's had its own court of justice. So although there are many different countries, suddenly we now see a system that actually has its own set of rules that controls the larger body of people. The EU traces its origins to the European Coal and Steel Community formed among 6 countries in 1951 at the Treaty of Rome in 1957. Since then, the Union has grown in size through the ascension of new countries, and new policy areas have been added to the remit of the EU's institutions. It's also very important from this part of recorded history that the European Union was formed because of a former organization called the European Coal and Steel Community. Why is it so important? How was the European Communion formed? Would all the nations in Europe have just agreed to work together? Or maybe there was something behind that that forced them to be able, or that they had to form part of the European Union. Otherwise, they would go into recession and their countries would become poverty-stricken. We see that because of the European Coal and Steel Community, this union of the European Union was formed. What really happened was that the steel prices was controlled in such a way that steel, which we know was the main resource that was used in the in Europe at that time, it caused all the other countries who bought steel from the main contributors, which controlled the steel market, to cause all the prices in food and in transport and everything to jump so high that they were forced to become part of the new monetary system called the euro. Hidden inside of this is actually what we call, and we'll see in a moment, the shadow picture or the image of how the one world government will come to its position. But we must understand, and Yeshua has revealed to us, how three kings must first be removed. And we'll see now in the rest of the seminar how this new empire will arise to its position. The European Union is composed out of 27 independent sovereign countries which are known as member states, namely Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. There are three official candidate countries, that is Croatia, the former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia, and Turkey. So we see that all these states, all these countries are actually part of the European Union. Having some other countries, three official candidates called Croatia, Yugoslavia of the Republic of Macedonia, and Turkey, which want to be part, or there's an option for them to become part. The Western Balkan countries of Albania, Bosnia, and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Serbia are officially recognized as potential candidates. Kosovo, and also listed by the European Commission as a potential candidate, but the Commission does not list it as an independent country because of all member states recognize it as an independent country separate from Siberia. So we see that there are different members that are not part, and either they don't want to be part, or they have been struggling to become part because of a difference in opinion in the prescribed conditions to be part of the European Union. And we will now see how Yeshua had revealed to us why three of the first kings will be removed. We can see which nations are part. So we know that out of one of those 27 independent sovereign countries will come the Antichrist. But we see which nations are not part. And this will become very important now when we look at history, at the specific areas which did not want to be part of the Roman Empire and first had to be removed so that the changed Roman Empire could arise to its position.